All right, let's come up with the top few excuses I always hear to why Matt Ryan is not a Hall of Famer. Number 3, Matt Ryan sucks, Cletus. He has a ramen noodle arm. You know he can't throw that deep ball, and that's what arm strength is judged by. All right, so you know how people, when they try to make a point, they over-exaggerate stuff to really try to hammer it home? Like, we've never seen Matt Ryan hit deep balls in his career. Like, come on, man. We've seen this dude hit countless deep balls. Are you not watching football? He's hit all kinds of deep balls, man. You dudes just want to have something that – is he consistent with it? Probably not, right? Not as consistent as he should be with the deep ball, but that's not a measure of arm strength anyway. That's the casual fan measure of arm strength. For people who actually understand football, those from the opposite hash, deep outs and – comebacks and stuff like that, right, that regularly get picked off, or pick sixes if you have a ramen noodle arm, those are the type of plays that measure legitimate arm strength. Anybody can sit there and put all their body English and everything into throwing a deep ball and have it go far, but that's not what arm strength is measured on. Like, come on, man, let's get that, let's eradicate that one from the public. All right, number 2, I'm not going to spend too much time on this. 28-3, man. Matt Ryan lost the Super Bowl against the New England Patriots. All right, first of all, come on. Like, that's the most casual fan shit ever. Like, if you're a grown man and you say something like that in a sport like football, then you've probably never snapped on any type of pads before that wasn't of the maxi variety. Come on, man. One player cannot lose a fucking entire football game for somebody. The score was 28-3, right? Look at that smaller number there, right? It says 3. Wouldn't that indicate that a defense was involved in letting a team get more than 28 points? If they never scored any more than 28 points, at the very least, you have like a 3-possession cushion, right? Suppose you only let them score 2 more touchdowns. You still win the damn Super Bowl, right? So I'm pretty sure there's more culpability in it than just Matt Ryan. And then on the offensive side of the ball, it can't just be Matt Ryan. That is a team loss. Please don't put that shit on the back of a quarterback. That's the most chick shit ever. That's exactly what uneducated males and females do when they think about football. They blame everything on the quarterback. Come on, man. Get out of here with that shit. I don't even talk about that no more. All right, the number one excuse I get when people talk about Matt Ryan with the Hall of Fame is, keep in mind, the first 2, right, doesn't even make sense if we're talking about the Hall of Fame, because someone's lack of arm strength has nothing to do with their play type of ability, even though he does not lack arm strength. And a single game loss or whatever like that, that's cornball shit, right? So the number one thing, it says he hasn't won a Super Bowl. All right, so he still has a chance to win the Super Bowl, but guess what? Even if he doesn't win the Super Bowl, it does not matter. This guy is a Hall of Famer, right? So here's the meat of what I'm going to talk about today, all right? So let's go ahead and get to this shit. All right, regardless of what people want to say or think, it is a numbers game. That's what people are going to remember guys by. That's really the only thing that people are going to have to remember people by, because not everybody's going to be able to watch every single game that every single player has played in, right? So your numbers are going to be something that's going to have to stand the test of time. And his numbers stand the test of time, right? So check this out right here. We know what Matt Ryan is all about right now. As of right now, he's 35 years old. So he's 35 years old. He'll be 35 years old this coming season right here. We can probably agree on that he has at least 3 more Matt Ryan style seasons left in him. That would be my estimate right there. You just never know how people get in their older age, but 3 more seasons of elite type play, in my opinion, right? But he's not elite or whatever like that. In my opinion, yeah, you're not doing this shit. You're sitting at home, right? You're dunking donuts. So shut the fuck up and stop trying to discredit what these people are doing out here in the NFL. None of us made the NFL. These guys are doing it at the highest level. So y'all got to quit that shit anyway. But he's a 4-time Pro Bowler, 1-time All-Pro. He was the Offensive Rookie of the Year in 2008. And he was the Rookie of the Year on a team that the season before was a complete joke. I sat up there in that damn dome and nobody was in there. You could fucking walk wherever you wanted to walk and shit. Like, you could walk to the damn sideline if you wanted to, because nobody was there. They weren't winning any games. Byron Leftwich and Joey Harrington. He immediately came over and took over, man, and the shit was just way different. It was just way different. So that in itself, people are going to remember that shit, right? Offensive Rookie of the Year, and he won MVP in 2016, right? So now look at this. For his freaking career, he has a 65% completion percentage. Now, people going to be like, oh, he be dinking and dunking. You ain't dinking and dunking your way to nearly 5,000 yards on multiple occasions, right? Think about this. 4,700 yards one year. Nearly 4,700 yards one year. Nearly 4,600 yards one year. Just shy of 5,000 yards one year. Just shy of 5,000 yards again the next year. And even on a year that I thought was a little suspect or whatever like that, 4,500 yards. Look at this. Look at his touchdown to interception ratio. He has only 147 interceptions in his 11 years in the NFL. 147, that's it. Watch when I get to these other guys. You'll be like, well, damn. And he has 321 touchdowns, but 5,100 yards. And I said 3 seasons of elite football left, or his, at the very least, 3 seasons of him just doing what we know he's doing. So imagine that. So if he's averaging somewhere around, let's say 46 to 4,700 yards, that's what? Think about that. Think about that shit, bro. This man has at least another 12,000 yards in him, and his career probably can span beyond that. I'm just being conservative like that. So he could very well end with like 65,000 yards. So you don't think somebody with 65,000 yards, that's amazing. There's not too many people out there that's messing with that. He's the second fastest to 50,000 yards in the history of the NFL. Let that sink in. Second fastest in the history of the NFL, with a 65% completion percentage with it. All right, so let's check this out. So he has not won a Super Bowl, and let's just say he does not win a Super Bowl. To me, he is the Dan Marino of this particular era, right? Dan Marino played in the era, especially being in the AFC, where a lot of the dope QBs were in the NFC, so he made a little bit more Pro Bowls. Think about it. It's going to be hard as hell to make a bunch of Pro Bowls when you have to play in a conference where there are bona fide Hall of Famers, right? And there's no doubt about it to me, Drew Brees is a first ballot Hall of Famer. There's no doubt about it to me, like a guy like Aaron Rodgers is a first ballot Hall of Famer. So, take that for what it's worth there. So he made the Hall of Fame without winning a Super Bowl. And don't come to me with any of this bullshit because you don't understand football. You didn't watch football. I grew up in a household or in a family where my big uncles, who I looked up to and I wanted to be like both of them, were huge Miami Dolphin fans. So I knew everything about Dan Marino. They were huge Dan Marino fans, huge Miami Dolphins fans. And look at this. He played in a passing era. His second year in the league, bro, he had 5,000 yards. Matt Ryan never threw for 5,000 yards. We see he's almost throwing for 5,000 yards. He did this shit in 1984. They've been passing the ball in the NFL. I don't know why people think this shit is new. Go back and watch what Dan Fouts and these dudes were doing. They were passing the ball for a long time. You had certain pockets of history where it was running errors, certain pockets of history where it's passing errors, and the shit just washes and repeats. It's going to be like that to the end of time. So, but look at Dan Marino right here. A 59% completion percentage for his entire career. Remember, Matt Ryan, 65%. Dan Marino played from age 22 to age 38. So 1983 to 1999 ended with 61,000 yards, right? Don't try to say that he wasn't in a passing era. He threw for 5,000 yards as his second year in the NFL, and I believe they got to the Super Bowl that year, and he didn't win the Super Bowl, just like Matt Ryan got to the Super Bowl, didn't win the Super Bowl. An incredible year. 48 touchdowns, 17 interceptions. He has 420 yards. He had 420 touchdowns to end his career, 252 interceptions. 59% completion percentage, 61,000 yards. Remember, Matt Ryan, he had 147 interceptions and having 320 yards. Can he throw another 100 touchdowns over the next 3 seasons? Well, it's a good chance he could. He's thrown at least 20 every year since his second year. He could throw for 30, then he could throw for 25, so he can get really close to that, and he's not going to throw another 100 interceptions in that time period because he's only thrown 147. At least we're projecting that he won't. And his completion percentage is probably going to stay around the same, if not go higher. He's getting more accurate as his time goes on in the NFL. But he will for sure get 10 more thousand yards. He'll get 10 more thousand yards, close to it, maybe in the next 2 seasons. He could have an astronomical number of yards to end his career, more than freaking Dan Marino. More than Dan Marino. Dan Marino made it. That's all you got to do is go throughout something. If you want to compare, go and be like, all right, have there been other QBs that have made the Hall of Fame without being in the damn Super Bowl or winning a Super Bowl. Warren Moon, that's another guy right here. Warren Moon, check him out right here. Warren Moon is a guy that I thought of. I'm not sure he ever made a Super Bowl, so I know he didn't win one. A 58% completion percentage, 291 touchdowns to 233 interceptions. That's a horrible touchdown to it's not a horrible one, but compared to like Matt Ryan or even Dan Marino, that's pretty bad, right? He only has 60 more touchdowns than interceptions, but the guy could air the shit out. Remember, he played in the run and shoot, and you can tell when he played in the run and shoot in the early 90s because his shit skyrocketed, right? He went to 4,600 yards a couple of years, but look, he ended up with 49,000 yards. Matt Ryan already has more yards than a guy who played until he was 44 years old in the NFL that made the Hall of Fame. A 58% completion percentage. Matt Ryan, think about it. He has 291 touchdowns. How many did Matt Ryan have? Matt Ryan has 321. He has more touchdowns already than Warren Moon, who played a lot longer than he did. Let that sink in. Let it sink in. That's all you got to do is compare. So there are other guys in this era that I think that are just like this as well. There's a guy that I know that's going to the Hall of Fame. This guy, Ben Roethlisberger, a 6-time Pro Bowler, 2-time Super Bowl champ, and he was the Offensive Rookie of the Year. Undoubtedly, I think he's a Hall of Famer. He is damn good. And look at his stats as well, right? Very much like a Matt Ryan. 64% completion percentage. He has 56,000 yards. Matt Ryan has 51,000 yards, but Ben Roethlisberger was in the league 4 more years than Matt Ryan thus far. He's gonna surpass Ben Roethlisberger's totals probably easily. I don't know much longer Ben Roethlisberger will play, but he has not been healthy. Matt Ryan's going to have better stats than that. He has 363 touchdowns to 191 interceptions, very much like a Matt Ryan. They're very much on the same kind of boat with that. He's undoubtedly a Hall of Famer. No doubt about that, in my opinion, especially with those Super Bowl wins. But people are going to look back at those Super Bowl wins for Ben Roethlisberger and say, man, he was playing with a sick-ass defense too. Right? Maybe the second Super Bowl win, he was a lot more a part of it, but people aren't dumb. They're going to say that Ben Roethlisberger played with some of the greatest defensive talent ever. Matt Ryan hasn't. So people nitpick on everything that Matt Ryan does. This is what they do about Matt Ryan. They'll say everything negative about him, but never say anything positive. That's not how you evaluate somebody. That's not being unbiased. You got to point out what they do well or what they've done that could help them get there as well. You can't just point out the negative shit. Then we know where you're coming from in your angle. So Ben Roethlisberger is a Hall of Famer. And then people always come to me and they say, well, if you put him in, then you got to put somebody in like Eli Manning. No. To me, Eli Manning is not a Hall of Famer. I love Eli Manning. One of my favorite players, no doubt about that. A 4-time Pro Bowler, 2-time Super Bowl champ. But Eli Manning was the benefit of some great talent around him and definitely some great defensive talent. Look at Eli Manning here. 57,000 yards in his career. 57,000 yards in his career. Not bad. Remember, he just retired. He was in the same draft as Ben Roethlisberger. So that's 4 more seasons than Matt Ryan, and he only has 6,000 more yards. A 60% completion percentage. Not the most accurate QB you'll ever see. 366 touchdowns, 244 interceptions. Almost 100 more interceptions than Matt Ryan, yet Matt Ryan has played 4 less seasons. 366 touchdowns, so what, 40 more touchdowns than Matt Ryan, but he's played 4 more seasons. That's a tough one right there. Maybe he gets in off the merit of a Super Bowl, but to me, he is not a lock and stock Hall of Famer. So it has nothing to do with the Super Bowl, in my opinion. It has to do with the individual player. And here's another one. Phillip Rivers. Phillip Rivers and Matt Ryan, to me, are very similar. He's like the West Coast Matt Ryan. I would think that Phillip Rivers has a chance to make the Hall of Fame as well. So he's an 8-time Pro Bowler, playing in the AFC, probably a little bit easier to make the Pro Bowl. The marquee quarterbacks, to me, have been in the NFC for the most part. Look at his stats here. Remember, he's in the same exact draft as Ben Roethlisberger, 59,000 yards. I would think he would have more than that. So 8 more thousand yards than Matt Ryan, but he played 4 more seasons. 397 touchdowns. That's great. 198 interceptions. Phillip Rivers, to me, is great. 64.7%, so 65% completion percentage. Him and Matt Ryan have very similar stats. So I would imagine that Matt Ryan would easily surpass his yardage total if he get to play the next 3 years. He could play another 5 years for all we know, and he will pass his touchdowns, and he will probably be around the same with the interceptions. Imagine that. Give Phillip Rivers another however many more 1,000 yards. He's still playing too, so we got to put that into perspective. But hey, that's another guy right there. I think that he has a chance to make the Hall of Fame as well. So I don't know what to tell you guys. How in the hell is Matt Ryan not a Hall of Famer? If you're being unbiased about it, his credentials are just like guys that are in the Hall of Fame, even guys that didn't make or win a Super Bowl. His stats are going to supersede a lot of people in the history of the league. Pretty much 97, 98% of people who played his positions, he will have better stats than. How is he not going to make the Hall of Fame? It has nothing to do with your personal liking of him. It has something to do with what it is, what the situation is. To remove your feelings, right? We got to go facts over feelings. Remove your feelings from the situation and look at it unbiasedly. He's a Hall of Famer. Holla back, man.
What more can I say?
Top Billin.